Welcome to the Freedom CEO podcast. It's about becoming the chief decision maker over your life in order to step into a life of freedom. From business, health, wealth, charity, and giving back to just doing life on your own terms. I am your host, Shay Mbadiata. I am an award-winning activist, change maker, and a multifaceted impact entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in business, philanthropy, and health and wellness. In this space, I'm going to be bringing you insights, not just from me, but from incredible thought leaders around the globe to help you start making decisions towards living a life of freedom so you can live a life you love. Are you ready, guys? Because we are going all in. Get ready to take notes on this one. Today's guest has a healthy obsession with streamlining and automating business processes, ensuring that both people and systems operate at peak efficiency and effectiveness, including the addition of AI to the marketplace. Stacey Brasier is a fifth generational entrepreneur with over 2 decades of business building under her belt. Stacey helps other entrepreneurs change the way they are experiencing being the boss through leveraging the power of team, tools, and technology to work less, earn more, and build a business around lifestyle, not the other way around. Stacey is taking automation to new heights by combining the power of automation with AI, and the results are nothing short of incredible. The possibilities are endless, and today she's on the Freedom CEO podcast to share some of her secrets with you. 3 words I'm absolutely obsessed with: automation, eliminate, and delegate. And so when I connected with Stacey Brasier, it's like, you need to come on the show because I hear you have a similar obsession around streamlining and automating business processes. And who doesn't need more of that in their life? So, Stacey, welcome to the Freedom CEO podcast. I'm so happy you're here.
Thanks, Jay. I'm excited to be here too.
Like, the world of entrepreneurship is always a wild roller coaster. And we live in a time where it's at lightning speed. You know, at least like 10 years ago, things moved slower. Internet speed was slower. We didn't have as many like apps and devices. The concept of AI would have probably sounded like a sci-fi movie to all of us, right? And now we live in this era of quicker, faster, yesterday. You still need to do it all, manage it all. Mm-hmm. And it can be really overwhelming for a ton of people. So I've always been a fan of those 3 words, like I shared earlier. And so when you and I connected, you've got an incredible brain that I cannot wait to like pick in and like tap into today, because I really think people can get so much value around reassessing why they're doing something and how they can actually make it more efficient or better or get rid of it. So for those of like my people that might not know you, introducing to you for the first time, share a little bit around like your background business wise, and then how did you become obsessed with systems? We'll get into that, but let's hear about who Stacey is first.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually a 5th generation entrepreneur. So you could say it's in my blood.
Totally.
I, have always had, even when I was a teenager, my own business, stuff like that. So, I've been self-employed for 21 years. Started out in a very different area, right? Went to school for graphic design, was so adamant and sure that was going to be what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And then very quickly realized that was not what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Got into the mortgage business. I was trained very young, a lot of older people in the business, and I learned the ropes really quickly. And then, after about 10 years of doing that, kind of was ready to move on. And during that career, kind of realized and spotted some things that, I didn't realize that my brain worked differently than most people's brains, right? That was kind of the kicker for me, where I would kind of get done in a day, what other people would get done in a week. And so, people would come up to me like, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? And I didn't realize that I was doing things that differently than other people. And so I kind of sat back and looked at what was I doing differently. And again, my brain just kind of started organizing things in systems automatically. So it was kind of a natural transition when I left the mortgage industry to get right into consulting and working with people on their business and their systems and setting up that kind of stuff for them as well. Because we do overcomplicate things. And especially in today's day and age with, automation tools, no code automation tools, where you don't really need to know how to use complicated things like code. And then with the addition of AI into things, I'm now combining the power of automation with AI. So it's like, you're creating the systems, but then you take it to another level with automation, and then take it to another level with AI. So there's a lot that you can do within your business to, eliminate that complicated, time-consuming nature of a lot of the tasks that we need to do in our business. We start a business and all the time, right in the very beginning, we're wearing all the hats. But like I say, with the ability to leverage team tools and technology, there's a lot that you can do to help ease the burden and ease the workload of wearing all the hats.
So I'm a business owner doing a million things, and I might come across you. Maybe I'm connecting with you here for the first time. I would imagine you're going to basically do an audit, and you're going to say, this is what I want to look at. So like, walk me through, like, what would that be? What is an entrepreneur needing to start to like look at and assess in their business?
There's a couple of things we look at. First and foremost, we look at like an energy audit. So we look at the things that you're doing in your business, right? There's, the day-to-day stuff. There's kind of the daily, the weekly, the monthly, the quarterly. There's things that you're doing in your business that you absolutely have to do. So I kind of have them look at what are the things that you're doing, and then breaking down on a more detailed level, how do those things make you feel? Do they drain you? Do they fill you up? And then what is the impact of those things? And then are they a high dollar item or are they a low dollar item? Like in terms of the impact of those tasks, are they, a moneymaker? Are they an income producing activity? Or are they, just the things that have to get done, but somebody else could potentially do them? And then once we kind of have that audit completed, then we look at what are the tools that you're using in your business.
Before you go to that,
I'm
going to pop you at the tools.
Yeah.
What could some of those examples be, like in doing that energy audit? Like when you say, I look at the tasks around like what you're doing, then do you love, like, what's your energy level? Do they drain you? Do they not drain you? And like the impact of like the value and money that those are producing. So like, I would think checking emails would probably be like in there, paying bills, sending out regular emails that you are always sending out. Like, for example, a lot of teams have like Monday morning meetings and they send out the same email, which I'm like, probably be automated, right?
Yeah.
But like, so can you just continue that? Just like, what would be some of these like examples that like a typical entrepreneur, not getting into industry specific to like realtors or like anything like that, but just like a general that maybe some people would be familiar with?
Oh my gosh, when you say inbox, that's one of the biggest ones, right? And a lot of people get really stuck in thinking that that's something that someone else couldn't do for them. I actually had a client, perfect example. He ran, a really big company. Well, I mean, big in terms of volume, but he had a team of about 15, didn't have an executive assistant, swore up and down he didn't need one, but he used to complain all the time about getting stuck in his inbox. And so one of the activities I had him do with me is we figured out what an hour of his time is worth. He doesn't get paid by the hour. He gets paid by commission and different things. But based on his income divided by the number of hours he was working full time. It worked out to about $750 an hour. And so I said to him, I said, okay. He's like, I'm getting stuck in my inbox. And I said, perfect. Would you pay someone $750 to check your email? And he said, of course, like, absolutely not. Yeah. So I said, essentially, that's what you're doing. And when that clicked for him, he hired an executive assistant within the end of the week.
Yeah.
And then within 3 months, figured out how to do the same approach with all the other processes in his business. And he removed himself entirely from the business because he realized he was the bottleneck for a lot of the processes in the business. So he, was able to surrender and let go of those things rather than kind of getting stuck in that mindset of, I have to be the one to do these things. So email, definitely. Calendar, so like scheduling, a lot of that kind of stuff can be either automated or delegated. There's a long list. I mean, invoicing, accounting, bookkeeping, basically anything that really kind of drains you. There's a lot of really small tasks within our business that we don't realize that add up over time.
Sure. Social media posting, content creating, like all of these things.
Yeah.
Okay. So you find all of the tasks, all of the things that you have to do and get done in your business in order to function. Do the energy audit on those things. Love it, hate it, draining, all of that. And then what that time is worth to produce that. And then so then the next step is you were starting to say, I think, about tools.
Yeah. So that's the next thing we kind of look at is what are the tools required for kind of fulfilling the processes and the tasks and everything that you're doing in your business. A lot of the time people don't know, or they're not aware of the fact that there are tools that can help make those processes easier, even if they're not even going to get into automation, right?
Right.
A lot of the time.
What would be an example of that?
Let's see. Simple one, right? People will email back and forth. I call it email ping pong to schedule a meeting.
Right.
Most people these days know that there's tools like Calendly or other similar tools that you can send someone a scheduling link and literally eliminate, 5 to 10 emails back and forth to schedule a meeting. Something like that, where that's like a huge time saver. It also creates a great experience. I'd have to think of a couple others, but I mean, like, it's just something like that, like that it would eliminate the need for manual back and forth brain power.
Yeah.
Two people trying to figure out their schedules, matching stuff back and forth.
Yeah. Which literally after we chat today, I'm in a call with 5 other people. And the guy was like, can you send me a whole bunch of times that like work for you? Because he's got to juggle it between 5 other people. And one of the features I love about Calendly, to even take it a step further, is sure, I can give you my link to one of my calendars and you can book in, but you can also do the one-off meetings. So I can decide if I don't want to open up my whole calendar for the purpose of a meeting, I can select being like, here's 5 or 6 times, and then you just book in whatever you want. And so that's what I did. I literally sent him, I was like, here's the link. This is my availability. And then based on that, you guys figure out which time can work for you. And like, and easy and done versus, and that's how it used to be. Like, you would go, and I still think a lot of people do that, right?
Yeah.
They look at their calendar manually, they're selecting, then they write it out, then they have to send, then you get the reply, then you got to find out the Zoom link, then you put it in a calendar. It's like, oh my God, there's one button that will do all of this for you. And like, put it in the calendar and send it to everybody and then give you the reminders. So that's a really, really great example.
Yeah.
So then that's what you're assessing, is going, okay, what tools like Calendly could we implement Another one, like for me, when you're talking about emails, like I love Boomerang. Do you use Boomerang? Yeah.
I do, yeah. Yep.
I think Boomerang is so fantastic. I never have to remember to follow up with anybody ever. Like if you're following up with people, what a waste of mental brain capacity trying to remember it, you know? So I love Boomerang for that. So you'll go through and recommend some tools. So before you get to kind of to the next step, because I learned a lot from Stacey in terms of like, she's dropped a few different tools on calls and I'm like, what the heck is this? I'm like, okay, you know, I write it down like Airtable, for example. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Airtable. I had never heard of Airtable. So you can explain it because you'll do a better job than me, but maybe throw out like in today's day and age, what are some of the best tools and apps that you could recommend? And before you answer that, I will say some of these have special discounts that if you have not used this before and you would like to use it and try it through a link, there might be a discount benefit to you. So anything that Stacey shares today, I'm going to put it in the show notes. So we'll put like a full resource list at the bottom. So if that's of interest to you and you want to start getting dialed in, make sure to click in the show notes because any of that Stacey and I talk about, I'll drop it. So over to you. Tell me like what would be, like some of your top tools that you think people should be checking out today.
Sure. I'll start with a couple of like just actual tools, and then I'll share some of the really key third-party tools that kind of bring it all together. So definitely Airtable is a big one that I use for a lot of my own stuff in my business. It's definitely usually a component of something that I build in for a lot of my clients because of its high customization abilities. And it has its own built-in automations over and above what you might do outside of Airtable. So it's a database tool, but I mean, you can do so much with it because it's kind of like spreadsheets, but spreadsheets on steroids. And I know a lot of people aren't a fan of spreadsheets. I personally love spreadsheets, but Airtable, it like takes it to a whole new level in terms of being able to work with your data, visualize your data. They have dashboards built into it. So you're able to kind of not just look at your data in a bunch of rows and go, okay, that's nice. You can actually visually see. So it's a tool that I use for building KPI dashboards for businesses. So again, they can kind of get a pulse on what's happening in their business, what's working, what's not working, like where do we need to kind of dig in and see, you know, what needs some love here, right? Like another tool that's very popular for kind of very flexible, like multiple areas of your business is Notion, or another one that's almost exactly the same that I actually like a little bit more is called Coda, CODA. It's very similar. So again, it works, both Notion and Coda work on a database like, but it's kind of more like a Google Doc or like a Microsoft Word document where you kind of have like a blank sheet in front of you and you kind of build things out. But again, you can build in databases, lists, checklists. So I mean, I use both Airtable, Notion, and Coda to build out like a whole operating system for companies, because you can have your policies, your procedures, your standing operating procedures, like all of that kind of stuff, all kind of tucked away, nice and neat and tidy and organized, all in one place. So it does become like an operating system where you can kind of manage your business all from one place. So those three are three of my favorites. ClickUp is another really great one. It's also very powerful in terms of customization. You can do a lot of the similar things. So I would say I use those four tools equally in the same manner, depending on the preference of the client in terms of what they like to use, what they're comfortable with, what functionality we need. ClickUp is also, it's like a project management tool. All four, could be used as a project management tool. So yeah, ClickUp is a big one out there. And I mean, you know, we mentioned AI a couple times. All of them have AI built into them now as well in terms of ease of use. You know, yeah, it's very cool.
See, like just even right now, I've never heard of Notion, Coda, ClickUp. Never heard of those. So this is why y'all need people like Stacey in your corner. Because I learn something from you every single time, and things change rapidly as well. And so I always think this is why it's really important that at least on an annual basis, you're actually doing an audit on your processes and systems, and you're asking the question, just because we've always done it, does that mean it needs to continue to still be done? Yes or no? If the answer is no, obviously eliminate. That was one of the first words I said in the beginning, like get rid of it. If the answer is yes, the next question break off for me is, could we be doing this more efficiently? Is there a way to automate this process? 9 times out of 10 in today's day and age, the answer is actually yes. And like, I'll just give you like a personal, like how I found Boomerang. I hadn't heard of Boomerang until probably like 2 years ago. And Boomerang is simply, so this is what happened to me. I sat down in a manager desk at our company. That person was no longer in the team. And so in an interim, I sat down and I'm doing the same thing, exactly what I just said. I'm reviewing processes, systems, what's being done, what can we get rid of? And what I was noticing is that like on Monday mornings, for example, if a team meeting was at 11 a.m., sometime a reminder would come out at 8:55, sometimes at 9:15, sometimes at 10:45, right before the meeting. Why? Because humans forget things. And I was like, this is the same Zoom link. It's not different. Okay. It's a continuous meeting. Zoom has that option. So even for some people, maybe you don't even realize, like you don't have to create a new Zoom link for a meeting that you have over and over again. There's a continuous option within Zoom to automate that process. So I literally Googled, how can I automate reoccurring emails? Heard of Boomerang. And I put it into Google, and then this like, Boomerang popped up, extension that is free, people. It's a free extension. And obviously if you use it too much like I do, you have to pay for it. But I think you're allowed 20 boomerangs in a month. And it tells you how much I use mine because I have to pay for mine. Like I boomerang at least 20 times in a day, at least, right? I get so much that comes through. And so one of the features of Boomerang is that you can set up these reoccurring messages and you can schedule them. So like if you're a business owner and you have employees, your quarterly reviews, set up the email with the questions you want for each of your employees. And you say at each quarter, a week before your review, reminder, your review is coming up, and you send it to whoever needs to be in that meeting. And then here are the questions to be prepared for. Then the day of the meeting or before, whatever. And so it's just this reoccurring email that constantly is there, and I don't need to think about it. That can be set up. And then it can also follow up for emails sent out, right? Like if I get an email and I send it to somebody, I do a day later, 4 days later, a week later, 2 weeks later. If I hear no reply, it comes back to my inbox. Or as you know, I can even go one step further. And if I haven't received a response, I can set it up so that Boomerang sends them another email on my behalf to say, just following up, haven't heard from you. Did you see the email I sent you? And this all happens without me knowing it. And it's amazing. And then eventually you get that person back in your inbox, right? Like, or the response that you need.
Well, and you hit on a really great point, and you mentioned it earlier too. You don't have to think about it. The number of things that we do have to think about in our business on a daily basis, it's massive. And I mean, like, and then also factor in like daily personal life and like all kinds of things, right? So it's like, the power of automation and also like systemizing your business and like picking and like sticking with like doing things the same way each time instead of different every time, you're freeing up so much of that brain capacity. And also, like you mentioned human error as well, right? Like you're also eliminating human error.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of room to breathe when you start taking those little things that you used to have to try and remember and keep them all kind of tucked away in your brain somewhere, and you're letting go of all that stuff. So it frees up a lot of brain space.
So let me ask you, Stacey, because I just said, like at least once a year, you should be doing an audit on all systems and processes. Would you agree with that? Like doing it once a year? Do you think that that's too long to wait? Should it be like biannually, or
I would say doing like a light audit, like a light review, maybe like quarterly, like just kind of checking in on things. And you're also going to do like I personally, and then also have my clients kind of check in on other things in their business. Like they kind of do like a daily and weekly and monthly review.
Right.
And there's an opportunity in there to identify breakdowns. So, I mean, there's also an opportunity if a breakdown happens and it involves software or a tool or something happened with a client, there's also an opportunity to jump in and maybe put a tool or a piece of software or something like that, or a new process in place so that that breakdown doesn't happen again. So there's, I think, multiple opportunities to review those kinds of things. Like, again, if the same breakdown keeps happening over and over again in a certain time period, you definitely want to take a look at, hey, how can we improve this process?
Right.
With or without,
And, part of the reason why, like, I was thinking to ask is because we are living in such a rapid changing environment, so I think about just even AI and how much AI has evolved to at least our knowledge. I always think they're like, I already think Elon Musk is like living on Mars. Like they just don't want to like colonize it yet. Do you know what I mean? Like he's already doing that. Like the robots and the humans are already doing all of that in the I'm sure that's all happening, but they only let us civilians know so much, otherwise we'll start freaking out too soon, right? So but how things are evolving, that's why I asked you the question, because I'm like, in a year from now, holy, like you could be in a completely different zone. And so if you don't have your finger on the pulse for like how you're running your business and the systems you have in place, and like keeping up with like advanced technology, like I said, you just named 3 pieces of technology that I've never even heard of. Notion, ClickUp, never heard of those, So, I mean, so that's good to know. You're kind of saying, obviously, if you're working with somebody like yourself, you already have that embedded into your processes with clients, that whether it's on a weekly, a quarterly, or a monthly, depending on the needs of the client or the type of business, then you kind of adjust that based on the client.
Yeah. And I think like having somebody like me in your corner, like you don't have to actually stay on top of those changes and different things that are going on in the industry. And I mean, you don't want to be changing up your software every 3 months or anything like that. But it's like, is there a new feature in that tool? Is there a new release of a new tool that's better than this one? Doesn't make sense to change right now, but going forward, that particular feature in that tool is going to be a game changer for you, or like things like that. And I mean, the other 2 kind of major tools, and there's more, it's not limited to these 2, but 2 really big ones that I spend a lot of my time in are Zapier and another tool that used to be called Integromat, and it's called Make now. So it's called make.com. Both are third-party no-code or low-code automation tools. And basically how it works is if you have 2 pieces of software maybe that you're using in your company and they don't necessarily integrate with one another out of the box.
Right.
Zapier or Make come in and they kind of act as like the middleman in your business. So it'll connect the 2. So if somebody, for example, books a call with you on Calendly, there's a trigger that gets triggered by that call being booked in Calendly, and then you can have an unlimited number of actions that happen as a result of that trigger. So I mean, for example, like I have an automated onboarding process for my clients, and I also onboarding is a big area that I work on with clients because it's a huge opportunity for being able to onboard as many clients as you want and not have to stop what you're doing,
Right.
right? Stopping delivery is a problem in a lot of people's businesses. So if you automate your onboarding process, number one, you don't have to stop what you're doing. You can, take care of a lot of things that need to be done up front, because there's usually quite a bit of stuff that needs to happen in the onboarding process.
Yeah.
You also get the opportunity to create an incredible experience, especially a first experience. It's like the first impression, if you will, when somebody's coming into your business, right? You get to create a really kick-ass experience for somebody going, holy crap, this is really cool. I feel really cared for. I feel really good about making that investment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my onboarding process has probably about 35 steps, which sounds crazy, but, when they pay, it triggers 35 different actions that happen in the background. Like, it'll send them a contract for them to sign automatically without me having to fill in the contract. It'll create a Google Drive folder for them. When they sign the contract, it uploads a copy. Like, there's a lot that can go on in the background without me having to stop and do any of that.
Like, and I'm like, anybody else just want Stacey to go through the other three things? Like, and then what are you doing? And then, okay. I just actually, okay, I'm in all seriousness. Can you just share like the next three from that? So like they sign the contract and it automatically then goes into the Google Drive.
Yep.
And then what happened?
It sends them a welcome email. It will invite and add them to, I use Circle as a platform for my community. So it adds them to Circle automatically. And I've got a couple different communities in there. So it'll add them to the appropriate one based on what they've signed up for. It creates a Slack channel, invites them to Slack automatically. What else? Basically, it just kind of creates a lot of the stuff that I need in the background for myself. So I've got some AI automations built in there in terms of doing some of the prep work for me up front, doing some of the research that I need to do up front. So there's a lot.
And okay, so like I'm asking you this because what I would love for people to hear is you can, as you're talking, I can see a human assistant like doing all of this. The time gap of like, okay, we just onboarded or we just hired this person. Can you send them the contract? And they send them the contract. And then if haven't gotten it back, and I'm sure you have a follow-up automation in there too, if they've not signed the contract.
I do.
And it's also because I just love my own automation. So it's like, if they've not signed it, it's like, oh, did you miss it? Just a reminder. Or if they've started it and it's not completed, it's like, just saw like you started it, but it's not complete. Like why I'm asking you is because you can like to share these steps is because you can see the disconnect of people and their thinking, because now you're like, okay, I have to now follow up with that person to be like, did you get the contract? Have you signed the contract? You didn't sign it. Could you sign it? These are like multiple emails, multiple like physical time that you need to do it. And who knows how long that'll be spread over versus a very condensed, short, efficient period of time versus maybe like a full week, right? That sometimes it could take to rely on another human being that you also have to pay. That's the other thing, right? Like you pay somebody like Stacey one time, unless you're an ongoing client. And then, I'm sure you're on a retainer model or something like that. There's different packages, but if you're paying for a one-time service, you pay for this setup to do it one time versus like needing a human that you're paying on a salary or you're paying freelance, whatever it is, you're still having to pay for that multiple times to manage all of that. And I mean, you just listed what, 8 or 9 steps out of the 35.
And I think there's a lot of room because you can build in some of that logic that you're talking about, right? Like if they haven't filled it out by X number of days, send this. And it has the ability to go check and see if they have sent it. And then if not, what do you want it to do? There's a lot of that kind of stuff that can be built into the background, and right back to not having to remember to do all those things, not having to, and also like for me, and I mean, this is, I think, beneficial for a lot of people, is like, they do have the choice to go at their own pace. We want them to sign right away and get started right away and get access to what they need right away. But I mean, like, they don't get access to anything until they've signed the contract and have, like, taken care of the things that they need to take care of before they're granted access. So, I mean, there's incentive also built into, hey, like, let's get this taken care of. It's a formality. It's something that's required in most businesses in order to kind of have a agreement to work together. Let's get that taken care of so we can get you everything you need so you can get started.
I love it. I love it. Stacey, I want to shift the conversation slightly into something really exciting that you actually just launched this month called Shift Work.
Yeah.
Talk to us. What is that? What does it mean for somebody like me? And then how can people get connected with you in this?
I love that. And I love that you had the play on words there with shift. I love it. Yeah, it's going to be a couple different containers, kind of multiple levels, depending on where you're at in your business. It's a community-based container, and people have the ability to kind of come in, work with me in a group capacity, and look at everything we just talked about. What am I doing in my business? What's draining me? What fills me up? What do I, no longer want to be doing in my business? And then figuring out what are the steps that they need to take. Because if I'm being totally honest, and it's not like, this is bad or wrong, but most people don't have systems established in their business. Right. We get off and running, and then, very quickly we're in the weeds of our business and just trying to keep up, just kind of trying to keep things moving and keep the lights on and all that kind of stuff. So not a lot of time for sitting back going, hey, how can I do this better? How can I do this smarter? And so there's a big focus on like how to start building out your systems in your business, like, really quickly and easily. I've got a ton of time-saving shortcuts that cut down the amount of time that it takes to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we start looking at, okay, what are the basics about like automation? What can you automate? There's going to be templates. So Zapier and make.com both allow me or anybody to create templates. So I will build out the automations for you, then you can plug them into your system and basically just kind of connect everything. So we work together on getting through the learning curve and like the learning process of doing some of those things together, so that you've got a resource like me to go, okay, I'm stuck here. How do I get to the next spot? Or what should I automate? Right. Like, so there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. There's co-working calls, there's workshops, there's all kinds of different things that are going to be going on inside of the container. So it's really about, the name of the program is Shift Work. It's really about shifting the way that people are working, because we get to have a business and have a life. We get to have a business and have great relationships with our family and our friends. We get to have we get to have a great business and take vacations without taking your laptop. Like, there's so much more to life than being stuck inside your business and hating a lot of the work that you're doing and really, really, feeling stuck.
It's so true. So important. And I really hope that, you guys connect with Stacey. If you've been watching, like, you can see her handles on the screen. I will be putting it in the show notes as well, because this is such a huge component that literally can change the course of your life, right? It changes everything, like how, because you're basically buying back your time. That's what's happening here, right? You are buying back your time, which is a non-renewable resource. You can always make more money, but you can't buy back more time. And so it's like, this is around working smarter, not harder, and actually having your money literally work for you, and reinvesting it in more efficient ways. And so, it's why I wanted to have you on, because you've got a more advanced brain, obviously, than me when it comes to this, and you're way more versed in this whole realm. And so I just think it's so important that we're always analyzing and reassessing, like, why we're doing what we're doing. Just because we've always done it doesn't mean it should be done. And like, can it be done better? Is there a better way? So I really appreciate you, Stacey, coming on. Before I let you go, I do want to ask you, you're on the Freedom CEO podcast. Maybe kind of what you were saying earlier, you might answer this in the same way. But when you think about being the CEO of your life, not your business, how has taking ownership over your decisions brought you freedom?
Oh, well, yeah, we talked about brain capacity. So being able to free up and not think about work when I'm not at work. One of the biggest reasons and drivers in my, I don't have children, but I do love spending time with the people in my life. And my brother at one point had kind of made a comment like, you're always working when you're with us. And it's like, shit, he's not wrong. Yeah. I'm literally visiting with people I care about and I'm sitting on my laptop, like something's wrong here. So being able to take responsibility for that, in that moment, I made a decision that like, I'm not going to work when I'm with the people that I care about. So setting up the systems and setting up the automations in my own business to be able to close the laptop when it's time to close the laptop and walk away and be present with the people I love has given me so much freedom.
I love that. And we can all relate as well. Like, who can't relate about like not being on a device, sitting in front of people. And I mean, as an agent, like this is how we make money, is like through the phone, and most of us are on. Yeah. And so I think it's really, really refreshing to hear you share that personally, like your own story of really what forced you to look at your own processes and systems at that time, and like what you were doing and how can you enhance and upgrade your life. Like that's what this does.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. This work for me, it's like, this is a complete life upgrade. So if that's what you want, if you're tuning in, you're like, I need a life upgrade, you need to connect with Stacey, because she will definitely press all the buttons, quite literally, to upgrade your systems, upgrade your life, and hopefully bring in some more revenue into your business by doing so. So yeah. Stacey, thanks for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure, Shay.
Thanks for tuning into the Freedom CEO podcast. If you got value out of today's show, I would love for you to leave a review, as it will help my show reach other people as well. You know what to do. Download this episode, click the like and subscribe button. If you feel like spreading more love, hop over to Instagram and share today's show in your stories. Remember to tag Shane Vidiata and the Freedom CEO. My DMs are always open, so drop me a line. I'd love to connect. Until next time, keep owning your decisions to live a life of freedom. Live a life you love.